important roles of the mayor is the appointment of citizens to boards and commissions, and residents would like to know what kind of people you, as mayor, will appoint. But we don't want just adjectives. In 1 minute or less, please give an example of someone in Evanston who you believe might make a good member of, for example, the Plan Commission.
I think part of it is a lot of people talk about the need to do something about volunteerism. We've got all these executives in Evanston, many of who have lost their jobs or changing careers, so the opportunity to create a special committee on volunteerism that would do a couple things. One, tap that talent. Orange already? Okay. And my wife, Vicki, who's in charge of corporate social responsibility for Allstate and volunteerism, would be, I think, a great person to be involved in that. As far as the Plan Commission, I'd recommend my good friend Dan Levin sitting down here, because he's been incredibly educational to me about important things to Evanston. He's got a keen ear for business and citizens, so the idea of bringing new talent and new thinking into town.
Well, when you ask about the Plan Commission, the interesting thing is I can think of so many names. Carl Bova's in the audience, Barbara Puda. There is incredible talent in this community that could serve on the Plan Commission. In terms of what kind of person I would look for, I think it's very important to go beyond my comfort zone in terms of people that I happen to know personally. But we've talked about appointing a committee who would search for people and go after people and talk them into applying for the Plan Commission, so that we would expand the range of people and not simply sit back and see who applies and have a drawer full of resumes and pick from those. I think it's important in a community like this to go out. Is that 30 seconds or I'm done?
No, you're from 30 seconds.
Oh, okay, sorry. But I think in a community like this, it's important to go out and beat the bushes and talk to some people who may not have thought of themselves as having the time into doing some community service.
I can think of any number of planners that live in Evanston that could serve on the Plan Commission. Consovoy comes to mind, who's principal with Tesca Associates and knows the community well, has lived here a long time. There are many others who planners who actually have served on the Plan Commission. So I believe that what's really important, as Liz said, and Barnabay as well, is that we need to be looking for people who are knowledgeable in their fields with respect to all the boards and commissions, and also making sure that they're provided with staff training or commission training so that they know how to do their jobs and what's expected, and provide the support. Because there's an amazing amount of talent in Evanston, and I think the Blue Ribbon Committee on the Pensions is an excellent example of how much a talented, knowledgeable group of people can bring to an issue.
One of the, as I said before, one of the great assets of this community is its talent, it's its citizens. Talent is growing wild in this town. What I would look for, I've been on the Plan Commission 3.5 years, and what I would look for is someone who's reasonably intelligent, someone who is willing to put the time in that's necessary to digest all of the materials that come our way on a regular basis. Someone who's really willing to listen, someone who's not afraid to take a position. It's helpful to have an architect or two. It's helpful to have someone who has experience in real estate and urban planning. I can tell you right now, Barnabay, that if I'm mayor, you're going to be chair of the parking commission.
This is a general question about, I suppose, governmental philosophy. There have been instances when the councils voted one way, even though most people in the city appeared to support the opposite position, with saving the Civic Center being one example. If a large majority of the city seems to be at odds with what the council is doing, will you use your veto power? More generally, under what circumstances do you feel is warranted for the council and the mayor to disregard popular sentiment, and give an example where that was appropriate or inappropriate?
I think it's really, really important moving forward that we have the community discussion and create the dialogue so that we know what the sense of the community is. It's very difficult to not when staff and the council are really at odds. So I think that I would go with a populist view generally. With respect to an issue where you've got a divided situation, and the Three Crowns project comes to mind, where there seemed to be about half the people who wanted a taller building with more open space, and the other half wanted lower building with a little less open space, where ultimately the city council had to make a choice. I think that as mayor, the important thing is to have the conversation so that everybody's on the same page moving forward, and so that we're not as at odds as we have been on many of the issues lately.
Having just lost a bitter vote on 708 Church, I can tell you that I thought that I was representing the people, the majority of the people in the 7th Ward, but certainly not all of them, when I voted against the 708 35-story project. But I can also guarantee you that the other members of the City Council felt that they were representing constituents when they voted for it. It was a 6-3 vote, it wasn't done. So it's very difficult to, I would answer the question that I would try to represent the majority of the people if I was pretty clear what the majority wanted. But the Civic Center is another issue where I believe we should stay in the Civic Center, but a lot of the council very legitimately believes that a new building is the way to go. A new building will be more energy efficient. The current building was not designed to be a civic center. It was designed to be a Catholic girls' school, so it functions brilliantly in that and not as well as a civic center. So it's a tough call.
I wouldn't hesitate to use the veto power if, in representing the 75,000 people of Evanston, I think it's necessary. I think on budget issues, if we have another budget with a 5 or 6% tax increase, I would be inclined to veto it. I know you're talking about projects, but in my experience on projects, on any given project, 20% of the people hate it, 20% of the people love it, and about 60% are in the middle. And political compromise, I think, is about getting to that situation where everybody gives and gets and the community benefits. It's almost impossible to think of something where everybody loves it and everyone got exactly what they wanted. So I think in these examples that you've mentioned, the Civic Center and even 708 Church, I see them as examples of political compromise where maybe we got to an okay place if you take the full balance of all the issues. So I think those are actually signs of successful democratic process. It's when you have extreme decisions that seem to come out of nowhere, and that's not what I think you're talking about. But I actually think we've got some very successful examples of political compromise.
As a general rule, I think as mayor, I would exercise my independent judgment after I listen to all sides and have had an opportunity to consider all sides. I do not favor government by referendum. Proposition 13 in California is an example of that. And we all know the price that Californians are paying for that. If, on the other hand, there is ambivalence in the community, and there's ambivalence among the council members, and that's sort of a up for grabs question, I can see going to a referendum, but typically, I think on most issues, I would exercise my independent judgment, and if that meant vetoing something on an issue about which I felt very strongly, I wouldn't hesitate to do it.